of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to the August board meeting. Get a little bit of a late start, if that's okay. Jill, is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, we see nobody in the audience, but we have public forum sign up and visitor guest book. Any announcements from the board? I just have one little thing I'd like to say. Welcome to Reed Kaufman, our new student representative. He's starting this month, so welcome, Reed. And moving right on to our presentations. JFK leadership. Do you have anything to report on JFK leadership?
I do not, as it's still summer, but I see Mrs. Brenton is not here, but I'd like to formally introduce myself to her at a time. But other than that, I have nothing.
Okay, great. We look forward to your presentations in the future. Thanks. Moving on, I would take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as stated.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Moving right on to the consent items. Looking those over. Lots of information in the consent items this month. I would take a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Anything that we need to pull out, discussion?
I just have a question. I noticed that the official, the cheerleading coach for the middle school, I don't know if that is that paid or is that volunteer?
It's paid this year.
Okay.
There's a stipend, coach stipend. However, like all of her, like the uniforms and equipment, that has to be fundraised for. So
Okay.
it's just the stipend we added this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. All in favor of approving the consent items? It's unanimous. Reports, licensed, classified, representative reports, seeing nobody in person. And there's still nobody online. So, okay. Hopefully we will hear from them once they return. Okay. Moving on to administrative reports. Is Erica going to be here tonight?
No.
Okay. This will be a short meeting.
Yeah.
And
Erica
budget.
had her report in there. Erica's is just like, I think she said it was like a summary.
Yes.
For the EL legislative, so
Yep.
that's in the consent.
Okay.
Consent and her reports, yeah,
Perfect.
they go together.
Thank you, Joel. All right, budget report, Christine.
I can't share. So I have a final report for 2022-23, and then the first blush at 23-24, and then just a kind of an update on budget where we stand with all of the way everything shook out for the budget because of the state. Okay, so first, oh, no, that's not the one. Okay. So this is the 2022-23 year end for the food service fund. So you can see that we ended in terms of revenue at 86% of what we budgeted, or 451,533. And then expenditures, we were 85% of expenditures, and it was a total of 463,884. And as you know, we did dip into our month-end fund balance, and we ended the year at negative 12,351. It is budgeted for next year to have some general fund transfer come over to support it unless we haven't really had anything change in terms of financial support from the state or federal level for food service. So this is where we ended for this fund for the last fiscal year. Any questions on this one? And all these reports pulled up and then I can't see it. Okay, and then here is the financial summary for general fund. So our total revenue for 2022-23 was 107% of budget, or $10,349 or $10,349,243. Sorry, $10,349,243. That does include our beginning fund balance as well as our carryover. And then for our total expenditures for the year were $8,713,587, which is 90% of what we budgeted. And we ended with a final month-end fund balance of little over 1.6 million. So that's basically this is what's going to be turned into our auditor, and then they will review this financial information at this point. Any questions on this one? Okay, and then here is the financial projections for this fiscal year. If you remember or not, period one is actually all of summer, so July and August will both be in here. What you're seeing right now is just July's information. So basically, you will the numbers aren't as far as like the averages. I moved them whatever we would get for August into the rest of the budget so that way you can have an accurate picture of what our year-to-date projections are, if that makes sense. So let me explain it differently. Period one is what our actuals are as of July 31st. And then normally period one is July and August. So instead of putting August under period one, since it's not actuals, I put that money in the rest of the budget to keep it so that you could see what our year-to-date is. So I'll give you an example. The state school fund, for example, that line item, we have received little over $1.2 million. And then we will receive another payment in August. And so that period one will actually be, like over 1.8 million. And then our monthly revenue from the state school fund would actually be less than 703. But I wanted you guys to see what 100% look like, because that's what we're trending at. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay. So you can see for period one, what we've received, we get 2 months of state school fund, like I just said. And then the beginning fund balance is plugged in there as well. So right now, our total revenues as of July 31st is a little over 3 million. And based on projections, I'm figuring that we'll be at about 106% goal as of right now in the general fund. And if we move down to expenditures, July is a pretty small month, except for we pay our insurance, our liability insurance, which is a big chunk of that, because payroll and everything is just people that work 12 months. So total expenditures is 366,000. And I did do projections for the rest of the year in terms of expenditures. And right now we're projecting a $2.2 million ending fund balance. Obviously that's going to change by the end of the year, but this is where the projections are as of right now. Any questions on this? I know it's not super valuable right now because it's so early, but I'd like to give you the best potential picture. And then let's see. And then last one, this is the lunch fund. Same idea here. I did plug in the beginning fund balance. and the projections in terms of what we budgeted. And then expenditures is very small because it's just our 12-month, or not, or excuse me, in our 12-month, that's our employees that are working extra duty for food service. And so right now, based on the transfer that will move in, I'm estimating that we'll have a little less than $5,400 in terms of month-end fund balance. It's all really going to depend on how much money we get from families that are purchasing food, as well as our reimbursements from the state. But that's just kind of the first blush at that.
You might not know the answer to this question, Christine, that's okay. What, do you know the price increase for food?
What it
lunches
was?
This year, for, yeah, from last year to this year?
No,
Okay,
that's
okay.
I can look it up, but
That's okay.
okay, so here is some information, the most up-to-date information I have in terms of our budget and numbers. So Student Investment Act came in at, so we budgeted for the Student Investment Act at $555,000, and our 2023-24 allocation ended up being about $732,000. High school success, our 23-24 budget was 192, and our allocation was a little over 217,000. So those were obviously both increases that we did not budget for. And then we did also get information about the early literacy school district grant that we talked about at last meeting. And we didn't budget anything for this because it was very unknown at that point. And we have an allocation of about 57,000. So we may have to do, we probably will have to do a supplemental budget to be able to spend it this year, at least some of these categories, because early literacy, high school success, and student investment act all has to be spent in this fiscal year. So there's no carryover allowed. So we'll have to do a budget change just simply for that, even if we don't touch general fund. And then I wanted to give you guys some information.
News.
It's great news.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Great,
news.
yes.
I want to give you a little more information about the early literacy initiative. The purpose, was to increase early literacy for children birth to grade 3, reduce literary academic disparities for groups who have historically experienced disparities, increase support to parent and guardians to enable them to be partners in their children's development, and increase access to early literacy learning through support that is research aligned, culturally responsive, and student-centered and family-centered. So out of this, they created 4 programs, a tribal grant program, a community grant program, the school success district, or excuse me, success school district grant, which is what we will receive, and then a birth through 5 literacy plan. The primary focus is pre-K through 3rd grade, and then there is some money allowed to be spent on 4th and 5th grade. There's a small portion of that. And so in terms of timeline, October and November of this year, we're going to get guidance on our plan, or for the plan that we'll need to do an application template. We can start making expenditures in October and November. And then we will also have to develop our early literacy plan. In November, December timeframe, we will share the plan with the school board because that is required by the initiative. And then ODE is going to open the submission window using the smart sheet through our integrated guidance application. So there's another component of the integrated guidance, which we do currently, just off the top of my head. High school success and SIA is part of that planning, because the idea is that you should be braiding the money together for success. And then in January to March is when they will be reviewing and approving the plans for the 23-25 biennium. And then we will start to be able to access the money in between March and May. And then there will be updated guidance released for the 27 biennium. So it looks like this is going to be not just a one and done grant, which is really cool.
Has some questions on that.
Yes.
Good job. The 57,000 cannot be spent until our application is submitted and approved and then, and only then, right?
No, it's actually that we can make allowable expenditures starting in October and November.
Okay,
And for some reason, I had, my report was longer.
even though
or-
we don't submit our stuff until the later date.
Correct.
The other question that I had on that is, when you did that grant, there were some other grants. Are those different monies that we could apply for?
No, like the tribal grant will.
Yeah, the travel grant.
Yeah, and then the community grant is gonna go to community-based organizations.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I totally lost a slide here when I was going to explain this to you. So it's a non-competitive application-based grant, which means we're not, going against anybody to receive the funds. They've already given us the grant amount. There it requires a 25% school district match from any funding, so we can use general fund or any of our title grants, anything as a match. And then allowable uses, professional development and coaching for teachers in early elementary grades, extending learning programs. So home-based summer reading activities, intensive summer school programs, high dosage tutoring, adoption and implementation of curriculum, and literacy specialist coaches or interventionists to support all of the above. And then I already gave you this information.
So we
Sorry.
could buy people with it,
We could.
and we could buy curriculum with it.
Mhm. Yeah. To put it in perspective, a person that would probably buy, if we use the whole amount, I would buy us half a teacher.
Have a teacher, yeah.
But we do have lots of options, but yeah, so we can spend the money once they give us the go ahead, and then they basically, when we report expenditures, we'll just go back to whatever that date is that they allowed us to start.
And
It's not uncommon,
it's 57,000 for this fiscal year.
correct?
And so for the next second year of the biennium, can we anticipate getting
I can tell you
the
exactly what that
grant
is.
again? And you have to spend it by the end of the fiscal year, so it's all within the same fiscal year, right? Not the biennium period. No carry.
No carryover, typically,
So it has to be spent.
yeah. let me-
Which is good, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's real good.
If I'm understanding correctly and doing my math, it's roughly 70,000 though, because we have to match 25%.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But we had that money from those other things too, that could help us manage.
Yes.
So for 2023, or sorry, 24-25, our preliminary allocation is a little over 59,000, so just a little bit of a bump.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And how that's based, it's based on K5 ADMW. Any questions on that? And I'll send you guys the updated slideshow because I obviously did not say that correctly. All right, any questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah, great,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you for that
Thank you.
positive
Really,
news.
yeah.
Yeah.
A positive report.
That's the trend we want.
Yeah.
Type basically,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no pressure.
yeah. All right, moving on to the superintendent report.
Right.
Well, good evening. Tonight's topics are several. An update on the St. Mary's principal hiring, a welding room update, we're nearing completion. It's getting really exciting. A bond update and an awesome grant update. And we'll start with the hiring. A lot of things that have taken place or are finishing up. St. Mary's staff gave their input on July 25th, those that chose to attend. And we had surveys open to staff and families between July 26th and August 4th. The position closed on Friday, August 4th, and the following Monday, a week ago, all applications were screened by a committee. Last week, on the 9th and the 10th, round one short interviews took place with me virtually. this morning. We have round 2 interviews in person. I will be working on extensive reference checks tomorrow and Wednesday. And then we hope to have an announcement by this Friday.
How many applications? did you get?
I don't want to be sharing that information in the meeting. I appreciate you asking. Yeah. I say that as a rule of thumb because I didn't tell the candidates that either, so
Yeah.
that's. Were there other questions about that? No? Okay. Welding room update. Great stuff happening here. So last week, the final items in the punch list were getting taken care of and inspections. This week, new equipment and materials are being delivered. This one is really important. I hope that you as board members can find a way to be to this. The ribbon cutting and the dedication is August 31st at 2:30, and we really would love to see you there, as well as students. Anyone that wants to celebrate the welding room, we want you there. And I think it's very important to have a formal recognition at our upcoming board meeting on September 11th. A few other pieces. We are partnering with Chemeketa Community College, and an adjunct community college faculty member will be on site 2 to 3 days a week for the 2023-24 school year, providing welding instruction. And the goals for that partnership are to increase opportunities for our students to explore welding as a career and offer students the opportunity to take a welding certification test at the end of the school year. And while all students may not take advantage of that, we want the opportunity to be there for them. And then overarching, as far as welding and our career and technical education program and goals, we want to make sure that we're increasing demographically representative student enrollment in our welding courses at the high school. Establish a job shadowing program with local businesses, providing students with high school credit. Develop a self-sustaining student-led business. I think this is very exciting, where students are designing, creating, and selling their products in the community. And the money earned would be deposited into an account to sustain and expand the welding program. And, for the health of the community, increase the number of certified welders in our own community. So those are our overarching CTE goals for welding. Yeah. Any questions on the welding room? Hope you can make it to the dedication. It's been a lot of blood, sweat, tears, time, effort that has gone into this project, as you probably know.
Rachel, do you know how the information about this opportunity, I'm assuming it's an after-school opportunity, is when the instructor's coming? And no, is it during the school day?
Oh, you mean the partnership throughout the year?
The part, and then the opportunity for kids, like how is this going to be, this information being given to our high school kids that this opportunity is there?
I know that Jessica Brendan has that information. She's working on that with John Gooley and with the adjunct professor already, but I'm not sure specifically what their outreach is. I know that Corey Scholl has her woodworking classes the first 2 periods of the day, and that's when the adjunct professor will be coming from Chemeketa. So they will be able to swap out kids so that some days they'll be with Corey Scholl and other days those who are interested will be doing welding, so that we don't have to worry about that supervision of 2 different areas where there's no line of sight.
Great.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Bond update tomorrow, big day. Bonds are being sold, and Christy Brackenreed and I will be going up to Portland tomorrow and signing some formal piece of paper. August 29th, there's the bond closing and the delivery of the funds. And August 11th through September 8th, we're going to be going through or starting the project manager selection process. Christy, did I get any of the dates? Did I get the dates right on there? Because you had that call today that I was not a part of. Okay. I think it's really important that as board members, you know that what we're doing as far as looking for a project manager, this is an essential component to a successful bond. And so I wanted to share with you tonight what has been happening and where we're headed. The request for proposals for a project manager were posted, and the deadline for submission of proposals was last Friday. A review committee is going to convene on August 23rd to receive and start to review proposals. The companies with the highest proposal scores will be invited for an in-person interview with the review committee sometime late August, early September. We found that we went through the CMGC process for our seismic grant, that having required interviews for highest proposals really gave us much better insight than just what was on paper in those proposals. The review committee will make a final recommendation to me, and then I will make a final recommendation to the board at the September board meeting. So that is the process of how it is unfolding at this time. Are there questions on that?
So just one question would be,
Sure.
once we decide in September, who we as a full body choose, what can we expect for like things to happen beyond that? We don't.
I do not have an answer to
Fair
that.
enough.
It's a fair question, though.
I just would probably, when might we seeing things happen? I guess would be my question, but
I think some of it is going to be dependent on what we see in the proposals as well. And what I can share with you in the next slide is what we're hoping for as far as a timeline. So hopefully those that submitted proposals are paying attention to what we shared. We did have a mandatory meeting for any company that was wanting to submit proposals, where we provided a presentation and we took them on tours of all 3 schools. And this is what we shared with them. These are the qualities we said we are looking for in an ideal project manager. We want exemplary communication. Instead of just telling, we want listening, collaborating, asking, and clarifying. We want to see actions that really demonstrate an investment in our community, its interests and its needs. Collaborative decision-making as necessary. This was an important one for Marty, collaboration with our facilities director, when services for smaller projects can take place during the school year and by the school district. A willingness to provide information to stakeholders when asked. Making sure always honoring the message and information that was shared with our voters. And here's partial answer to your question. Staying on budget and within the proposed time frame, and optimally 2 summer work seasons. That's what we really like to see happening. So I would suspect that the proposals that are going to come in are going to give us a much better sense. Yeah. And then lastly, servant leadership. They're here for us. Any questions on the project manager selection? We're getting close. Along with that, I thought it would be important for you to have a few more details about the Awesome Grant and the required phases. So before we can actually have a grant agreement with ODE about this, the bond process needs to be completed, and that will be completed on August 29th. So then we can start working on the paperwork that will go to ODE. In order to execute the Awesome Grant agreement, the following things need to happen. Our bond counsel needs to provide an opinion on the validity of the bonds that are received. Our own district general counsel needs to verify that the grant agreement has been correctly executed, and a board resolution needs to happen that authorizes the execution of the Awesome Grant agreement anticipated in September. And then we get to submit the grant agreement to ODE. And then we get the provision of Awesome funds, and they don't just cut us a check, it's a reimbursement process. And I know that Christy might have a few more details to that if you have questions. I'm not really sure how that works, to be honest.
Typically, once we get enough expenditures, we will have to fill out a report and request it, and then it gets deposited in our account. But we eventually will have to carry it until we can get the reimbursement. But most of our almost every grant that we have is a reimbursement grant, so it's pretty typical.
Questions on my report topics tonight? Thank you.
Andy, I looked it up and meals went up 10 cents.
10 cents each level.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, board member reports.
I have one that I'd like to put on the record. I have a little statement to present to our board. I'll go ahead and read this here. Good evening. As many of you know, I was elected to serve on the school board and represent our community, a position that I take seriously. This past July, my wife was hired by the district to be the principal at JFK. As a board member, this could potentially result in conflict between myself as a board member and the district. Thankfully, Mrs. Stuckey and I have researched all of our district policy and Oregon statutes, and we have reached out to OSBA, and there are no policies or Oregon statutes that preclude myself from remaining on the board and continuing to represent all those in our community while my wife serves as JFK principal. There may be times due to circumstances where I need to recuse myself from discussions and or voting on issues so that there remains no conflict. We may also during these times confer with OSBA to ensure that we are remaining to be transparent and not cause any conflict between the board and the district. It is my intent, along with the will of my fellow board members, to remain on the board and continue the good work of the district in providing the best education for our students. If anyone has any questions or concerns, I would ask that you please direct them to me for further conversation. Respectfully, my friend. And I would like to say thank you to both Rachel and Sherry for helping guide some of this for myself. I do appreciate that.
All right,
And again, if anyone has any questions, please send them my way.
thank you, Mark.
And I just want to say, in response to your statement, completely supportive of
Yes.
you remaining on the board, and if you had opted to resign, completely supportive of that. And so completely supportive, and glad you made the call that you made.
Okay, thank you.
Completely agree. Any other board member reports? Public forum, Jill, did anybody join the meeting? Okay, seeing that there's nobody in the audience in person or online. We move on to our action items, partner with the Jupiter School District for high school girls soccer program. So similar to last year, right? Rachel, about we partnered with the Jervis High School soccer team to have our girls join as one team. We have to again approve that as a board so that Mr. Moffett can start that process, right?
With OSAA, so the board approval is required through OSAA.
Are there any questions?
We had the same thing last year. right?
Yes, yes, yeah. Exact same thing. And from what I know is very successful partnership with Jervis. So I would take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the partnership with Jervis School District for high school girls soccer coach.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right, discussion items. We have 5 policy first readings tonight.
We actually added to that today, so if you did not check your blue sheet that came this afternoon, we have increased the number of policies for our first reading. I apologize, but if you need to look right now, you can find them online, right, Jill? Because they were sent, okay. But we will start with policy GCAA, Standards for Competent and Ethical Performance of Oregon Educators. This is an optional policy for districts, but we do not have this policy, and it's important to our staff. The language is taken from the Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, all of which supports appropriate professional conduct by our licensed staff, both administrators and teachers. and is considered best practice. So the recommendation is to apply all OSBA language and move to a second reading. And it is in your packet for you.
So is the language coming from TSBC or OSBA?
TSBC. Well, what's extrapolated from TSBC is in the policy. Like, good question. In other words, OSBA did not add anything new to the TSBC. Questions that I can answer for you? Okay, moving on. Policy IGDJ, interscholastic activities. This is an interesting policy that as a policy committee, we needed to look at over several meetings to try and better understand the context. And the context behind this is that all of the requirements that are in play for OSAA now through this policy would apply to other programs such as FFA and FBLA in terms of equity and inclusion, complaint policy. It has to be, let me read this to you. I want to make sure I get this right. Updated OSBA language now expands adherence of OSAA policies, rules, and regulations to other voluntary organizations that are district sponsored. It's not, an example would not be MAIS. This includes organizations such as FFA, FBLA, debate teams, if we ever wanted to have that. All voluntary organizations must have equity-focused policies, a complaint process, a system of sanctions if a complaint is filed, and an annual survey, state, not local, for parents and students in response to violations.
So my question would be, does this policy put the onus of the language onto the state FFA association or our local? So then our local has to create all these policies and things.
I believe it actually was pretty well outlined.
For them.
Let's take a look at it.
So FBLA,
Mhm.
our high school FBLA would have to create all of this and adhere to it.
You bring up a good point. And I hadn't explored that. It might be worth having a conversation about that.
That I'm not.
Yeah, and I wonder if they can just say, we just adopt the district policy on.
I'm not a huge fan of OSAA because they're an association putting their policies on the schools, which are. I'm not always in agreement with.
So currently,
OSAA.
what do we have for clubs?
We have FFA and
No, what do we have in to overarching?
Policy.
District
policy, yeah.
District policy.
policy. So if this is adopted, it would be that it would just follow district policy of equity and.
So I'm gonna look at the blue sheet that says
Okay.
all volunteer organizations must have equity focused policies. So it's saying the organization, as the examples are FBLA, FFA,
Uh-huh.
would have to have their own policies.
And their policy can simply say we adopt the district.
True.
That's right,
That's what I
that's what I'm assuming
My guess.
for you, right? So they can further delineate their policies, but their first policy would have to say that they adhere to all district policies. They could go that whole route of doing something else, but they always would have to adhere to our district.
So my next question would ask, it says it's required for districts, who's requiring it? Is this an ORS? OAR?
there are ORSs affiliated with it.
Because when I looked at my, I did find, and I didn't see anything at the bottom. When I found it there.
On that page.
Yeah, but there's all there.
There's one new law. That's two that are highlighted there. And I would certainly entertain more questions and bring back more information next month to talk with you about.
Because the word, it says an annual survey, state, not local, what does that mean?
Since it's state driven, I did ask policy analyst at OSBA about that, and he said that was up to the state level. We wanted to make it clear that it was not our onus to do a survey. We don't
Yeah.
want to put more work on our own staff. Other questions? These are really good.
I want to look through it a second time, to
Okay.
see what it says.
If you do have other questions, please talk with me or email me and I will research and we'll bring it back for another round at discussion agenda next month.
So I'm just gonna ask Sherry, because you made the comment, which does make sense. If we were to create this, then our own organizations would just say we're following the district policy. Which is
I think that would meet the letter of this policy. They can add to it, as I already said, they can get more specific, but it has to be in compliance with our district plan.
So then those clubs would have to understand that they're following this.
Yes, of this policy. And I didn't find the GCAA in. Got my board packet from.
Yeah.
The one that was online.
The first one, yeah.
I didn't ever find it.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it, so I feel like I haven't read it. So I don't know that that really meets the first reading requirement.
So I can bring that back
Yeah.
next month.
That one's not in, it's not in.
Sorry, I have it in mind. Whoopsie. Apologies, we will bring both back.
It's in the one, if you went to the district
I
website,
did.
I've got it right here.
What pages?
Geez, I'm on page 114.
There it is.
It took me a while to find it, but I did find it.
Oh, okay,
So that,
there it is.
that's
Yes.
new then.
I searched for GCAA, I searched for ethics.
Yeah.
I could
Well,
never
it's
find,
because it's brand new, it would be
or
brand
was
new
it
to
scanned,
us.
it was. Anyway, okay,
It was not,
it wasn't searched.
well, it wasn't in what was sent to us originally.
It wasn't in the packet originally.
No,
The one that you sent before you went on vacation.
yes.
Yeah, but okay, thank you.
But
'cause
it's
I
in the
couldn't-
one.
I
that
looked
was
and I.
tonight from the
No, you're not the
district.
only
Find it.
one. You're not the only one.
Thank you, Teresa.
We're not in a hurry. We want to do this thoroughly and thoughtfully, and so we will have it prepared for you for next month.
So we'll add that back to first reading for next month.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So the first two, we're gonna bring back.
Yes.
The question I would ask is, how does this parallel with any of the, like staff handbooks and things?
How does it parallel?
Yeah, I mean, is some of this already kind of written in policy through our staff handbook?
It is interwoven in roundabout ways, you know, hit and miss here and there. This just is a way of saying, these are all of the requirements that our expectations of a licensed staff person.
So would we have to then eventually update our staff manual to point back to stuff like this?
No, I don't believe so. It's a nice to have, it's not a need to have. So if there's any heartburn at all, it's optional.
I think it's nice to have though.
Yeah, I
Simply
agree.
Having
because,
one place.
simply because you may never need it, or you may need it one time in a million. On something that has happened with a staff member. And it would then kind of give us a little more coverage,
Little insurance.
assurance. That's what I was kind of thinking. It's not gonna hurt, it's not gonna. But yeah.
Are there other questions associated with this that you would like me to research?
Just looking at it, it has new sections about conduct, particular conduct.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if some of those things are already written in policies for our staff of conduct. And are we kind of double dipping to a certain extent?
Yes,
Does that make
there's
sense?
definitely crossover,
Crossover.
and I would say there are components within this policy that are, or the board's own separate policies that already cover this as well. For example, we already have policies on sexual conduct and harassment and things such as that.
And then if, I guess my question would be if staff member violates, which policy then would you basically go with at that point?
I would go with both because one is reportable to CSBC and one goes through the district processes.
As long as they're not telling us different things.
The new policy is based on the TSPC standards. So that would alert staff members that their licensure may be looked at. And I think that gives you a little more coverage in case there was something that we are not sure about. You could actually bring it over to, as a TSPC recommendation.
Well, and that sounds great. I'm just wondering if whatever we have, are there pieces that are overriding, like which policy, if it came down to disciplinary things, which one would you end up wanting to, or both?
Or just making sure that both of them say the exact same.
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
I would basically say that this is just my own past experience, is that you could list more than one policy as you write a letter of reprimand or something else. You list all the policies that may apply. You don't have to interpret all the policies, but you could say as per policy this, as per policy that. And that kind of gives the district more coverage. And or it may, I think you can't be over covered with.
Well, I would
something that
just,
happened.
I would just hit it from like the staff member's perspective, if they're rebutting this, that they could say, well, this policy says one thing, this policy says another. Which one am I supposed to follow? Which
Well, I
one?
think-
Which one? are you
I
gonna
think
do?
the fairness is when we could look at both policies and see if there is that double coverage.
Yeah, if there's duplication.
It's duplicated.
I don't support
I think it would
actual duplication.
contradict or,
It's more the contradictory.
Yeah,
things.
yeah, that's
Once
what
you
you're thinking.
duplicate, you have to make sure that you maintain the duplication.
Yeah.
And don't deviate, right?
And I guess that's what I'm worried about, is the board is like, we don't want to have any contradictions between
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
two policies.
Right.
Looking at
It's
this
not trying to
together.
Trying to get out of
Yes.
the contradiction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll do an analysis. It's good.
Sorry.
It's a good conversation. Okay. Ready to move on to IMB, District Improvement Program. We don't have this policy. It's not a required policy, but it's highly recommended and it is really best practices. OSBA language describes a self-evaluation process that has components that involve stakeholders, goal setting of continuous improvement efforts. This mirrors exactly our strategic planning process, which would be the format that we would submit to ODE if the district were ever asked to provide a district improvement plan or a program. At any time, a district could be asked to provide their district improvement program and plan to ODE. I had mentioned in the policy committee at one point that in my 35 years in education, I have never been asked to be part of submitting a district improvement program, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. Did that happen to someone at the table?
I had that happen. And then you have to report to a board of directors of Oregon Department of Education with your district improvement plan. It could happen. It may never happen, but it could happen.
It's a way of validating this that's been done,
Yes.
saying this is who we are, and we don't need to do something different
Right.
because we were very clear about what we were doing in the first process.
Right.
So the strategic plan kind of become this.
Right,
Kind of becomes
Yes, sir.
one that.
right.
Good questions. So the recommendation is to apply OSBA language and move to a second reading. Yeah, okay. And then there is an administrative rule that goes along with that. We don't have this AR policy either. Again, not a required AR policy, but highly recommended. The OSBA language describes steps in a process to construct a district improvement plan or program. Again, these steps exactly mirror the actions that we've taken and should continue to take in developing a local, meaningful, and comprehensive program of improvement. So the recommendation would be to apply the revised OSBA language and move to a second reading. Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, JEA, compulsory attendance, and then there's an AR that comes along with it too. The district's current compulsory attendance policy is out of date and does not keep pace with the current compulsory attendance law. When you look through here, you will see that there are many updates to the OSBA language. That language is in there because it is following the law. It removes language for Class C violations. Maybe there might be some discussion about this. In previous law, when a student was absent X amount of days, a police officer and attendance officer could go to the house and issue a Class C violation for attendance
To the student or the
issues
parent.
The
to
parent.
the parent. And that can no longer be done. So that is the biggest piece of compliance with this law.
No more NCR copies.
And no more NCR copies, makes no sense.
Is that what our current?
Our current policy.
They got rid of truancy for it, and then it was been dismal since,
It,
in general. Not talk right here, but in general.
it can be a real challenge to accept the shifts in this law, and yet it is the law. And basically in both the AR and in the policy itself, that highlight is the Class C, the omission of the Class C violation. What are your thoughts? Any questions? And is there anything you want me to research?
No, I haven't.
Move forward, okay? Essentially the same thing with the AR, except without the carbon copies. Additionally, parent letters reflect the need for parents to arrange for enrollment with local ESDs, and we don't have that right now. We would benefit from having that language in our policy if they opt for homeschooling.
So that would force us to send a letter if they have to register at the ESD.
Either that or a phone call. Mhm. Questions or comments or thoughts? I can tell the heat is getting to all of us. Set them move forward then?
Yep.
Yes, okay. And then this last one was not intended, but we've added it this week. And Christy, feel free to add to this, but this policy is new and it's required by law. There were two policies to choose from, versions to choose from, and the policy is optional and was selected because the district has selected a third party to deal with the law on family medical leave insurance. We're working with American Fidelity. We're not taking it on ourselves. And so we were able to opt for a simpler version of this. If the district had not arranged for a third party, we would be using a much more extensive version of this policy that would have had to have been selected. The plan had, our plan, Mount Angel's plan of working with American Fidelity has been approved by the employment department. Christy, is there anything you would want to add to that? She's the guru.
If you have any questions, you can ask, but
You have to have a poster.
well, they all have posters.
So I would imagine though that if we ever went away from a third party, then this policy would have to be revisited.
Correct. Yeah. And our only options either third party or the state plan, which is managed by the state.
Do you know how many districts have opted for a third party? It's few, quite a few.
There's quite a few, yeah. There's some benefits to going to American Fidelity is we didn't have to pay into the pot of state pot essentially from January to September, so that saved us some money. The other advantage for our employees is that with the state plan, if the money runs out, then there's no benefits for employees versus with the insurance plan as an insurance product, and so the benefit is still there for the employee, regardless of the pot, because there's no pot for that. Yeah, but there is quite a few that have done that, chosen to go through American Fidelity because they know how to do leaves. They've been doing that for a long time. And the state, is working on that. So I think
So essentially, our employees are not having to see that reduction out of the paycheck until September.
correct. Yeah, and the requirement is that the equivalent plan must be the same or better than the state plan. So the cost is the same, and the benefits obviously are the same to our employees too. So
Great, thank you.
Questions? Okay to move that forward?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Board work session dates for the year. We have one coming up a week from
On the
Wednesday.
23rd,
Yeah.
and that one's with Studer to talk about the strategic plan. I did talk with Erica Gordon today, and she would be interested in doing a tag work session earlier rather than later with the board. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a topic. I don't think we chose a date yet.
We haven't,
Okay,
because we wanted to kind of touch base with her to see when that would be good. October, November, does anybody have a preference?
yes. She's good whenever you, so September, October,
So
November.
why don't we do,
September's
How about-
stuff with.
yeah, it
us
is.
best.
yeah, let's do October.
Okay.
October tag.
Any specific days of the week that don't work great for you?
October's on.
Tuesdays don't,
Tuesdays don't, okay.
not in the evening, yeah.
Do we want to keep with a Wednesday
Wednesday's perfect.
since August is on Wednesday? Do we want to keep it with the week after the board meeting we have for August
That would put it on the 18th.
18th?
October
I know
18th.
I
October
can't do
18th.
the following Wednesday.
Okay.
When are conferences for financial?
Right
I know they're-
around that
I know they're in
time.
October at some point.
But the week,
Mr. Callen.
the 18th, 19th is sounding
The
familiar to
18th
me.
is not great for me.
Okay.
Okay, we could. choose
Okay.
it.
Monday the 16th. How about Mondays?
Monday the 16th would work good. Then we don't worry about it conflicting with conferences because those are usually later in the week.
Say that again, what day?
Monday the 16th?
Sure.
Sure, that works for you?
Great, yeah, perfect.
Okay,
16.
okay,
Are we doing these here? or are we doing-
Conferences are 18, 19.
okay.
The work
perfect.
sessions. are
We
these-
usually have those.
Are we doing it
district
district?
office,
Yeah.
But if you would prefer to have them here,
I'm fine, just.
Sure, the
District
logic
office.
is great.
okay,
Is August at the district office as well, or is that? gonna be-
Yes.
Did we say October 16th?
October 16th,
And we said district office for all of these?
yes.
While we're doing this, I saw the ELL report that we had. Is it possible in the near future to that was great information, but could we just do an individual Mount Angel ELL report just to see how our kids did on stuff?
Sure. Would you like that to be a work session?
Well, that might be good to, that we could see how many ELL kids we have and where they're, by that time, we should, it could even be like November or what.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the ELLs and just seeing how it's going.
My suggestion, and I love that idea. I think it'd be very informative for the board. I probably wouldn't put those back to back for Erica because.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
preparation,
Okay.
But it's a very worthy topic.
Math in November.
Oh, math, that's right, math.
Math
You're
in November.
right.
And
Math.
then ELL perhaps in January.
Maybe that would be good. It's
Is
just,
that a busy time?
I'm just like wondering
On
how our
calendars,
kids are
busy
doing
January.
and,
It's always.
That's
busy.
true.
okay, so in November is math.
We have a day in November.
I don't think a date was selected by. Olivia.
So the board meeting is late in the month of November,
13th.
the 30th, which is like almost the third week.
And then the
Next
next
following
following
Wednesday,
Thanksgiving.
just before Thanksgiving, so.
We do it the Monday, the 20th.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good. You good, Sherry?
Well, it's Thanksgiving week.
Thanksgiving's one day,
Oh.
Christmas.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just thinking ahead. I might be out of town.
Well, I leave on Wednesday that week and don't come back till like that Tuesday after
Yeah, we can shoot.
20th?
20th.
I know last year we skipped December
Yeah, it's in
because
January.
again, it's another late kind of board meeting. Then we're right into Christmas break. Almost.
I think skipping December would be good.
That'd be great.
So ELL in January.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Monday the 15th?
That's Martin's.
It's an
Oh.
okay day.
You're right. Thank you.
What day?
17th on Wednesday.
That's good.
It's the same thing in February. Following Monday's President's Day.
Okay.
I'm wondering, and I don't have a crystal ball to know this, but I'm wondering if by February, there might be a juicy work session with our project manager on town. I would hope that there would be a lot to report by
Yeah.
then.
Do we want to put a date on the calendar, Rachel, and just have as a placeholder? So that we know we have to have some kind of. UC meeting.
I feel that would be appropriate.
So that would be February 21st.
Can we do it Thursday instead of a Wednesday?
Sure. You want to do the 15th or the 22nd?
Well, the
15th,
15th
same
is the
week.
same week as our board
Yeah.
meeting,
The 22nd,
22nd.
22nd.
unless people are going up. to-
Other topics? Or is this enough to get you started for a while?
What topic? I don't know.
I can think of a million topics, but that's just me.
Well, the early literacy plan.
Well,
with
yeah,
what we're
the
doing
early
with
literacy plan would be perfect.
With what we're doing with our grant money and. By March, we should be kind of, here's some examples.
Oh, should
I
be
would
kind
hope so.
of spending some of that money down.
Yeah,
Is the school district buying curriculum this year for English?
That is what I'm hoping. We have not sat down to really divvy up the budget, but
Okay.
that's what I'm anticipating for both reading and math.
And we did allocate a transfer to.
Form and math
For that.
too.
Mhm.
They usually, do they present their, what they? You know, the committee that does it and they choose a textbook that they want, they usually will present it at a school board meeting.
Yes, that will happen. Absolutely. Needs board approval.
So are we looking at a literacy plan in March or no, or
Well, we can just kind of,
kind of wing it?
Should we just hold the date?
Yeah, we can hold that date.
and it's spring break that month, so. we're
Okay.
gonna-
Is spring break the last week or the second week?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have conferences on
Conferences,
the 20
21,
21st, right?
no school, the 22nd, and then the next week is spring break.
Do we want to skip March for a work session? I'm just asking because
Either skip or do it on the Monday, the 18th.
I mean, I would prefer to hear about literacy in March so that we can have a good understanding of what's happening. We wait till April, then you're
Yeah,
May and June.
so March what?
18th,
18th is the Monday.
because the 21st conference.
And we're supposed to just share the plan with the school board in between November and December of 2023, if that affects.
Oh,
You're
so we
thinking?
need
But
to,
that's a plan, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're talking about March is like what's been going on.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Check in, like how is the money being spent?
got it.
How's
Okay,
it going?
okay.
Pros and cons,
Sounds
like,
Because you had
Successes.
the October in your presentation. We have to approve that.
Yep.
do you want to kind of hold there?
Hold there.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. That's about to die.
All right. It's six work sessions planned.
With really beefy topics.
Yes,
Yeah.
exciting topics.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have anything else? Going to adjourn the August meeting.
Right.
And it's still.